Hello, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Trans I for the Cis Ally. My name is Julien. I use they, them pronouns. I used to be a cartoonist, and now I'm a software engineer. I've been working as a programmer for like the last 4.5 years or so. I work at a company called Artemis. This is an indoor agriculture management platform. We are hiring, of course, so feel free to talk to me later if you're interested in that. In my spare time, I enjoy powerlifting, hanging out with my really cute dog. His name is JPEG. That always gets a really big laugh from programming conferences. I like to obsessively read about Freddie Mercury's life. And finally, I'm like kind of a little bit of a Queer Eye superfan. So what is Queer Eye? Before we get to the actual topic of the talk, I feel like I should give a little background regarding Queer Eye, just so we're all on the same page. Queer Eye is a show on Netflix currently that, like, on its surface is a makeover show where 5 gay guys take one person each episode, make over their hair, their clothes, their house, their cooking ability, but most importantly, their feelings. Usually it's someone who's had kind of a hard time in their life and they've struggled in some way, and the Fab Five, as they're called, come together to help them get their whole life together. Almost every episode of the show ends up being pretty emotional, so if you've never watched it before and you really want to watch a feel-good kind of tearjerker show, I would recommend it. I should also mention that before I go on, even though I'm definitely a super fan of the show, I don't think it's perfect. There have been a lot of like really valid critiques about many aspects of the show, so even though I'm not going to talk about those things right now, I'm really happy to talk about various critiques of Queer Eye in the hall or on Twitter or whatever, so if any of you want to do that, let me know. So, moving on, what does this have to do with what we're talking about right now? This talk is called Trans Eye for the Cis Ally, which is after the title from the original version of Queer Eye, which was called Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, which I've never watched. I've never watched the original, so don't talk to me about it. I don't know that much about it at all, so it's honestly like pretty different from what I've heard from the modern one. Anyway, so in this case, I'm the trans I, and you're probably the cis ally. If you're here, you're likely interested in making your workplaces and events more inclusive for trans people, which is great. The truth is, there are so many small things and some larger things that you can do to not only give your existing trans coworkers and community members a good experience, but also to make sure that even if you don't currently have any trans coworkers or community members, you're providing a space and an experience that will be welcoming in the future. So let's start with the basics. Not even the basics, but like the basics of the basics. So, what is trans? What is cis? The simple answer is that trans just means you don't identify with, or transgender means that you don't identify with the gender that you were assigned at birth. So that's it. That's, not everybody who feels this way ends up identifying with or using the word trans to describe themselves, but the word is there if they want to use it. So, for example, a trans man would be someone who was assigned female at birth and then figured out later that he was male. And a trans woman would be someone who is like assigned male at birth and then later realized that she was female. It's not that complicated. Yeah, cis just means you do identify as the gender you were assigned at birth. So that's most people. If the doctor said it's a boy when you were born and you're a boy, congratulations, you're cis. It's not hard. So transgender and trans and cisgender and cis are adjectives. People can't be transgendered or cisgendered. Like unless you are also a trans person, sometimes we jokingly say these things to each other, like I transed you. That's not, you can't actually do that. But anyway, if you want to be respectful, just try to use the words correctly. Non-binary just means your gender falls somewhere outside of the typical male-female binary. There are a few common misconceptions about what non-binary means. It doesn't mean someone who is like gender neutral or androgynous. It doesn't mean someone who is assigned female at birth and like leans a little masculine. Non-binary literally, it could mean those things for some people, but it really means it means a million things. There's not one way to be non-binary. There's not even 2 or 3 ways. It just means you don't fit into the binary, and this is a word that you've chosen to describe yourself. technically, it falls under the trans umbrella. So some non-binary people don't consider themselves trans. This is fine. If someone tells you they're non-binary but they're not trans, just say like, cool. Just accept it. Everybody's different. And it's okay if you don't understand. Something really important that cis people often don't get is that it's okay for you to not understand trans people in order to respect us and treat us with dignity. I don't know what it's like to be cis or straight. It doesn't stop me from being able to respect others. You don't have to totally understand what it's like to be someone in order to respect someone. Pronouns are a really good example. So when someone first comes out to you as trans, or if you meet a trans person, they might want you to use different pronouns than you're used to. You might not understand, because to you, they might not look like someone who uses those pronouns. Or maybe they want you to use they, them pronouns, and you've never done that before. Just try. All you have to do is try. You don't have to get it. If you mess up or someone corrects you, just quickly apologize, correct yourself. Don't make a big deal out of it, and eventually it'll be second nature to you. So while we're talking about pronouns, I should mention as an aside that a person's pronouns are just a person's pronouns. So like my pronouns are they, them. It's become kind of common for people to say preferred pronouns, but only when they're talking about trans people. So like everybody has pronouns. They're not preferred, they're just pronouns. Also worth mentioning, some people have done this in my life in the past. Sometimes people think that you can just use they, them for everyone because it's a simple solution to having to remember all these different pronouns for everybody. But this is actually not great. If you have a trans person who's using he, him pronouns, for example, and you call him they, you're actually still misgendering him. So think of it this way. You have to learn different names for everyone you know. There's probably only 3 different kinds of pronouns, like gendered pronouns, that you have to learn. So compared to having to learn all those names, it's honestly not that hard. So now that we've discussed some basics, let's move on to the next level and talk about what you can actually do right now to make things better and more welcoming for trans and non-binary people at your company or your event or your meetup group or whatever. So back to pronouns. For me, as a non-binary person, it's impossible for someone to guess what my pronouns are just by looking at me. So my life has become a series of awkward situations in which I have to figure out how to tell a single person or a few people or a whole room full of people that I use they, them pronouns. This can be the case for binary trans people too. Just because I have to do it all the time doesn't mean I'm good at it or that I'm used to it. I kind of hate it. So a really simple way to mitigate this is just be proactive and make sure that people are given every opportunity to state their pronouns. At the beginning of a meeting, when a new person is being introduced to the company or whatever, just have whoever's running the meeting start by being like, my name is so-and-so, my pronouns are, they, them, or he, him, and just have all the employees kind of, be an example. So make it a normal thing. If you have an employee page on your website, you can have people include their pronouns. This also helps prospective employees know that you at least intend to be a trans-inclusive space. It's definitely something that I look at, when I'm looking at people's job pages. If they have pronouns, I'm like, cool. They're the bar. Honestly, the bar is in hell, but it's slightly above the worst. That's great. Same goes for events. Anywhere a person's name is listed, if they want to include their pronouns, you can include their pronouns as well. You can offer pronoun stickers or pins like we have here. Or just have a way people can write their pronouns on their badges, large enough that people can see them easily. Something I really like about these pins, actually, I've been to a lot of conferences with a lot of pronoun things, and I really like this because you can read it easily, it's large, and you can put it anywhere you want. So you can make it visible, whatever. I think that's the best solution. Anyway, especially, even if you're cis, still put the pin on and whatever, write your pronouns, because you can encourage other people to do the same. Just make sure, when you introduce yourself to people, you say your pronouns, just, that sort of thing. So this picture of pronoun stickers is from a meetup where I live in Portland. That's called Donut JS, which is pretty great. Yeah, make sure people know if they're interviewing candidates to introduce themselves with their name and pronouns, and ask if the candidates, if the candidates want to do the same. If your company or your event has a Slack, make sure everyone knows they can include their pronouns, or like have the leaders, include their pronouns in their profile. Just don't make it a thing that only the trans people have to deal with. So it kind of sucks. Also, something I haven't written in my notes, so I'm going to ad-lib, is something that people have talked about and mentioned a few times is, like, you shouldn't force people to share their pronouns. That's also a thing. Like it's great to be, like, really encouraging about it, but some people are in the closet, and it sucks. Like, even though it's totally understandable to be like, well, I'm going to refer to you with a third-person pronoun, so, like, you should tell me what you want me to use. It's just, like, so stressful for people who are kind of still in the closet to have to think about it and then, like, put the wrong one up, and it's like, yeah. So I've had people tell me that before when I talk about pronouns, so I just wanted to mention that. Don't force people, but, encouraging, and especially if you are cis and you know you're cis, just, like, put your pronoun on. Anyway, so on that note, you might want to consider that if you do have a trans employee or a coworker, you might want to ask them what, if anything, they want you to do if another employee misgenders them. Don't assume that everyone is bold enough to correct other people, especially if they're new. And by the same token, don't assume the person wants you to say or do anything. Let it be up to them, but be sure you find out in advance, because I can say, like, for some people, depending on the person, like, it could happen constantly for them, and it's going to come up, So you want to know the right response ahead of time. On that note, if you've hired a trans person or someone has just come out to you as trans and you're wondering if something is okay, you should not assume, you should ask. So, for example, you have a non-binary employee. This is actually a thing that happened to me at my old job when I came out. So usually when you go to conferences, you have so in our case, we previously had an even split of male and female employees, and we would share rooms at conferences. We would share hotel rooms. But instead of just assuming which person I'd want a room with, my boss was like, hey, how do you feel about this? Do you, feel okay about being with, like, which person do you want a room with? Do you want your own room? That sort of thing. So yeah, don't assume what people want, just ask. But also sometimes don't ask. So like stuff like that, yeah, you should ask. But there's a ton of things that you should never ask. Luckily, this is, I think, really easy to figure out, but it still happens all the time. So think, like, before you ask somebody a question, ask yourself if it would be okay to ask a cis employee. It's not okay to ask a trans employee if it's not okay to ask a cis employee. So don't ask, like, if they've had the surgery. Like, the surgery is, like, some abstract concept that is, like, not real. So just don't, it's ridiculous. Anyway, don't ask literally any question that has to do with their body, but especially their genitals. Like, don't ask invasive medical questions. You might think that these things are obvious, but it happens all the time. It's extremely common as a trans person to have people you barely know casually asking you about what's in your pants. So don't do that. It's not appropriate. Health insurance. So don't wait until a trans person is interviewing for a job at your company to find out if you have trans-inclusive health insurance. You should find out today. Most insurance companies these days have, like, a section in their literature specifically about what is and what is not covered with regards to trans healthcare, so just take some time and familiarize yourself with it, so when somebody asks, you have an answer. Bathrooms. So bathrooms come up a lot. You probably don't put much thought into them yourself. For a lot of trans people, it can be a minefield, and I think it's important that you know and, like, understand the extent to which we sometimes fret and worry and stress out about them, so that you can, come to it from a place of empathy. So, one of the reasons I love working remote, personally, is I never have to think about the drama of using a gendered office bathroom. So, even in the best, friendliest scenario, I always feel some kind of anxiety. Sometimes I've gone out of my way to wait until, and this was at an old job, but until all the men in the office left or they went to a meeting, and then I would go to the men's room, but especially if I didn't know all of them. Sometimes I've even left an office to use a gender-neutral bathroom in the basement or a coffee shop nearby if I'm at an event like a conference or a meetup, and I don't know the bathroom situation ahead of time. Sometimes I'll stop drinking liquids hours ahead of time, even if I'm thirsty, or I won't eat, even though I'm hungry, just to avoid having to use the bathroom because I don't know, what the deal is. So unless I know there's at least one gender-neutral restroom available, then I'm not worried. So what I'm saying is, for some trans people, not all of us, mind you, but definitely a lot of us, we put a lot more thought into bathrooms than you might think. So what are some ways that you can deal with this? The best case scenario is that you have single-stall, gender-neutral restrooms. This is like the holy grail of trans bathroom experience. So it's the least anxiety-inducing. If you already have single-stall bathrooms, but they're gendered, just degender them. Just put a sign that just says bathroom. There's no reason for a single-stall bathroom with a door that closes to have a gender on it. It's absurd. So maybe you have a large office or an event space with bathrooms in several locations. Is it possible that you could put signs up on one of them and make that one gender neutral? Sometimes events, like this big event we're all at together, sometimes they put up temporary signs over one set of bathrooms just to make them gender neutral for that one event. So if you do have gender neutral bathrooms, but they're somewhere really hard to find, that's also a thing that happens to me a lot. I sometimes have called myself a truffle pig for gender neutral restrooms. I will find it. I've had people at conferences be like, hey, where's the gender neutral? And I'm like, I'll draw you a map. Anyway, so yeah, just be sure to put up signage. This is really helpful if it's somewhere else. Put signage by the gendered bathrooms so that people know where to find the gender neutral ones. It's also worth putting a little thought into the bathroom situation if you're hosting a company event or an offsite that's a little more casual, like a small group. It would be great if whoever puts the events together could just do a little recon on the bathroom situation in advance so that, the trans people can know if there's, what's the situation. Where I live in Portland, it's pretty common, a lot of bars and restaurants now have gender-neutral restrooms, so that's, it's pretty great. But it's not like that sometimes when I go to a company offsite. Anyway, this might be a little bit of an unusual tip, and also might be totally unnecessary depending on your company. But personally, if I'm in a situation where I have to use gendered bathrooms, and it's a stressful situation, like if I'm in a sports bar or someplace that's really just men, sometimes I like to have a bathroom buddy who will go in first for me and will be like, there's this many stalls, the stalls are full, there's 3 urinals, or whatever, tell me what's going on in there so that I can know ahead of time. Yeah, occasionally I like my friend to go in with me if it's really bad, but that's pretty rare. Usually this comes up, yeah, I wrote this, I already said it. It comes up in really masculine bars, like sports bars and whatever. You don't have to do anything huge, but if you already have a really good friendship with your coworker and they use the same bathroom as you, it might be worth just privately, when you go to these events, privately being like, if you want someone to come with you, I'll go with you. But not everyone wants this. So as I said, it depends on the kind of relationship that you have with your coworker. I've had friends do it for me, and it's been really helpful. It really sucks to be out at a bar with your coworkers, and you feel like you have to leave early, or you have to miss out on things because you don't want to use the bathroom there. And sometimes, depending on the event and who's there, it can be you're missing out on actually really important networking opportunities. So it's worth keeping in mind when planning events or offsites. But again, it's don't just approach any coworker like this. It's just, you should know that you're really good friends. Otherwise, it's really weird. So speaking of company offsites and events, sometimes sometimes you might find yourself traveling to and from an airport with a trans coworker. You probably already know a little bit about how terrible TSA is. Have you heard? But you might not be aware of how awful it can be for some trans people. So Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot you can personally do, but there's like ways you can be supportive. So you might not be aware of this, but the scanners they put you through at the airport require the operator on the other side to decide over the course of about a second whether to put you through as male or female. So the way the scanner scans your body for bombs or whatever is that it sort of compares your body to what it expects a male or a female body to look like. So for example, before I had top surgery, but after I'd been on testosterone for a while, I got stopped and frisked every single time for chest abnormalities. I still sometimes get flagged and frisked for groin abnormalities, but I had to get into the habit of stepping into the machine. This is the thing I literally did when I still had boobs, was I would step into the machine, lean out, and be like, hey, I have boobs. Hey. And usually they would be like, what do you want me to do about it, you know? Just press the female button. It's just press the female button, and then it would be fine. But yeah, it's not for everybody. So sometimes, yeah, literally depending on the mood of the TSA agent and how transphobic they are, it can go extremely poorly, and it can result in a really humiliating experience if you're trans. So if you're the cis person and you're in this situation, you don't have to do a lot, but like just make sure you're nearby in the security line. Pay attention to how the TSA is treating your coworker. This is kind of intense. Like this is rare, but like just be prepared to like serve as a witness if things go bad. Consider having your phone ready to record if something goes really bad and you need proof, or if the TSA tries to move your coworker to a different location, be ready to stop, like step in and be like, hey, do you want me to come with you? Most of the time, it's like just slightly awkward. It's not really that bad, but things can and they do go really bad for trans people moving through TSA. So it's good to be prepared in case this happens to your coworker or your friends. So speaking from experience, being traumatized by TSA is a pretty terrible way to start a work trip. If you want to learn more about what it's like to fly while trans, there was a great article in New York Times called "Flying While Trans" that you could read. And yeah, it goes over a specific bad experience that one person went through. So one thing you might not have considered is how much more trans-friendly your workplace becomes when you let people work remote. So even if you have a primarily real-life office, if you let people work remote as much or as little as they'd like, without having to explain, like they can just say, I'm working remote today, then you unintentionally solve a lot of problems that trans people have in offices. Bathroom problems are solved, but there are less obvious things, like some trans people can have days or weeks or months when their dysphoria is really bad. So if you don't know what gender dysphoria is, like you can look it up. But it's hard to explain. But it can be really debilitating if you have it really bad. So sometimes when that happens, it's just easier to be remote. You don't have to manage your dysphoria in an office setting where there's like 1,000 different triggers. I don't really experience that much dysphoria anymore. But for example, when I used to have to wear a binder, there were days when the way my clothes fit would be a huge trigger, or like on one occasion, I had a panic attack at an event because of that, and like I had to go home, and it just sucks. So sometimes, when I used to wear a binder, it's really uncomfortable, it restricts your breathing, it would make my chest hurt. You're not supposed to wear it for more than 8 hours, so if I had to like go somewhere after work, it would be like, oh, I get to wear it for 8 hours and then go somewhere else, and then, I'll be in incredible pain or whatever. You're not supposed to do that. You can like literally break a rib. So, yeah, working remote means that you don't have to do that. Like if you want to go to an event later, you don't have to wear the binder all day, that sort of thing. So, struggles to funk. This means it struggled to function. This is something that it really goes for any marginalized group, but you might not be aware, but these days, trans people's rights are on the line almost constantly. We've become a really popular target of public discussion in the news and a large variety of other media. So if you're trans, it's almost impossible to ignore, and it can be really hard to deal with. I've had days when I could barely function because I read something about, like, oh, the Supreme Court's going to decide whether I should be protected from discrimination in the workplace. Great. Yeah, there's also the talk about rolling back healthcare protections. Yeah, so it's really stressful and terrifying, and it's hard to not let this kind of news affect you when it has to do with your day-to-day life, especially when sometimes it feels like nobody even cares. So, what can you do? I strongly recommend reading this blog post by Laura Hogan from 2017 called Managing in Terrible Times that talks a lot about this and makes a lot of wonderful suggestions. Personally, I like seeing like a show of public support from my coworkers. Even just like seeing them tweet support is great. At my last job, my boss put these like little trans flags everywhere during Pride. It was really cute. You know, wonderful. So in recent years, I've noticed a trend among meetups and conferences and stuff that used to be for women in tech that are trying to rename themselves to be more inclusive, but unfortunately, it often seems like they're not really sure who they want to be inclusive of, so they end up naming their groups like women and non-binary or women and femmes, or they're really confusing and like no one knows what it means, wimkixin. Usually, but not always, this is like truly a well-meaning attempt by event organizers to be inclusive of trans women, possibly inclusive of non-binary people, and maybe, but probably not trans men. I think there's a lot of confusion among cis event planners regarding who they want to be inclusive of, what the best wording is, based on who they want to include. So, you know, if you're confused, I don't blame you. It's confusing. So, let's see what we can do about this. First of all, I'm going to assume whatever event or group we're talking about, it probably started as something for women because women are still an underrepresented gender in tech and they're still a marginalized group. So many women experience misogyny and discrimination in the workplace and many tech spaces. Many women were also raised to, you know, conform to particular personality traits, not rocking the boat, not speaking up. And this is a male-dominated field, so, you know, most men are raised to be the opposite of all those traits, and it means it can be exceptionally hard for women to forge a path. So it makes sense that over the years, groups and events have popped up so women in tech can organize. In recent years, women's spaces have, they've decided that they want to be more inclusive of trans women, which is great. As people have become more aware of the existence of trans women and their collective need to be recognized and accepted part of women's spaces, they've also become aware of other marginalized genders, mostly non-binary people. Usually, though, women's spaces first become aware of non-binary people because someone in the group who formerly identified as a woman comes out as non-binary, and then the group doesn't want to exclude that specific person, so they start calling themselves women and non-binary or women and femmes. This is where we start to get into issues, because non-binary means a lot of things. Femme also means like a lot of things, like way more than people think it does. So the messaging with both of these things can be really confusing. There's non-binary people who were assigned male at birth and don't consider themselves femme. There's people like me who were assigned female but took testosterone, and now, we, like, for lack of a better phrase, look like men to most people. So even though we're all non-binary, a lot of us wouldn't feel comfortable going to an event called Women and Non-Binary or Women and Femmes. So, not to mention trans men, who are also often completely ignored or forgotten. They're still a marginalized group who sometimes might have experienced many or all of the same situations or problems as women in tech, and they're completely excluded. So what should you call it? Yeah, I just want to get it out of the way that it's absolutely fine and okay to have something that's just for women. You're under no obligation to include more marginalized genders. I just ask that you think about the mission for the group and think critically about who you're including, who you're excluding, and why. I especially ask that you give serious consideration to why you would exclude trans men, because you probably are. Most but not all of the time, these groups and events actually mean to include everyone who isn't a cis man. So this would include everyone who is assigned female at birth, everyone assigned male at birth who doesn't identify as a man, which includes a lot of non-binary people, of course trans women, some intersex people. If you've taken a long time to think about the mission of your group or your event and you decided, yes, you want to include all marginalized genders, I strongly recommend you consider changing the name or the mission, and you can call it marginalized genders. That's a phrase that I suggest a lot. It avoids describing your group in opposition to something that it's not, and it instead describes who it's for. You can always put an asterisk next to the name, and at the bottom you can be more descriptive, or just put not cis men in that space. Otherwise, be sure that you're accurately naming your group. There's consulting you can hire to help out with that. I'm running out of time, but my last tip is not to if someone in your office is trans and you want to look something up on the internet, don't do that. Don't look them up on the internet in front of everybody, because you can unwittingly show their birth name and all kinds of personal information that they would rather have secret, not shown to you, unwittingly. So anyway, yes, in closing, I just want to reiterate that everything, they're things you should think about today. So don't wait, do it now. I'm also happy to speak in more detail about any of this stuff afterwards, so feel free to come up to me or tweet at me or whatever. There's a lot of things I didn't get to speak in as much detail as I wanted. I'm happy to talk more. If you have a really complex concern, though, I'll probably refer you to someone who does that for a living, which is not me. I'm just a regular person. But for most basic questions, I'm happy to answer them. Finally, I feel bad that all my Queer Eye gifts, Bobby has been underrepresented or unrepresented. So here's one of the very few Bobby gifts I could find. Hopefully you can see why I was unable to find a place for it. And that's it. I'm Julien. That's my Twitter. You should talk to me. Thank you.